Good morning, dear students. Today we're going to discuss about what happens to an acid or base in water. So they dissociate into ions. So if you take any acid or any, we can say alkali, when you add in water, they dissociate, or we can say ionized, and they give like H plus ion in case of acid and hydroxide ion in case of base. And to see the acidic property of an acid, so either an acidic acid should be in moist condition or the litmus paper should be in a moist condition. We know that acid change blue litmus red, but dry acid does not have any effect on dry litmus paper. So dear students, if we want to see the change on litmus paper, either we have to moist the litmus paper or either we can take the moist acid or acidic solution. Let's take example of hydrogen chloride gas. So if you pass the dry hydrogen chloride gas over the dry litmus paper, that is blue litmus paper, you will not see any considerable change in color. You will not see any change in color. But if you moist the litmus paper, then you will see the acidic nature of HCl gas, because in moist condition it releases H plus ion. So we know that acidic property is due to H plus ion or hydronium ion, and acid only ionized when there is water, when there is moisture. So with moisture or with water it get react and it ionized. Let's take example of preparation of hydrogen chloride gas. So if you just take sodium chloride, that is salt, and if you add sulfuric acid, and if you heat the reaction mixture, you will get sodium hydrogen sulfate, that is a acidic salt, and hydrogen chloride gas. Dear student, HCl, when it is in gaseous state, it is known as hydrogen chloride. It is not called hydrochloric acid unless and until it is dissolved in water. जब HCl गैस होता है तब उसको हम कहते हैं हाइड्रोजन क्लोराइड. जब वो पानी में डिसॉल्व होता है तब उसको हम कहेंगे हाइड्रोक्लोरिक एसिड. सो दिस इज एन HCl गैस एंड द सॉलिड विच इज फॉर्म इज सोडियम बाइसल्फेट और सोडियम हाइड्रोजन सल्फेट. ये एक एसिडिक एसिड सॉल्ट है क्योंकि इसमें H दिख रहा है आपको. इवन दिस सॉल्ट इफ यू डिसॉल्व इन वाटर इट विल गिव H प्लस. दैट्स व्हाई दिस सॉल्ट इज नोन एज एसिड सॉल्ट. एंड इफ यू heat the reaction mixture above 200, so instead of H, or we can say instead of bisulfate, you will get sodium sulfate. So this is a normal salt and this is acid salt. Okay, in both cases you will get HCl. Preferable is this one because sodium sulfate fused with the test tube or the container, so it is better if you heat the reaction mixture below 200. So we will get this and HCl. In both cases we get HCl gas. Now if the HCl is dry and because of humid condition or because of moisture it get moist, so we can dry the HCl gas. But if you want to check the HCl gas, whether the HCl gas is having any change on any, we can say any effect on litmus paper, we can just try this HCl gas, dry HCl gas, or if you want to dry the HCl gas, for example, if it is moist, first we will just dry it with the help of drying agent like sulfuric acid, or we can use calcium chloride. Sulfuric acid and calcium chloride both can be used for drying the HCl because they don't react with HCl. Sulfuric acid is the acid, so it does not react with HCl. Calcium chloride is acidic salt. It is a acidic nature, so it will not react. And dear students, you know sulfuric acid is strong dehydrating agent and also can be used as drying agent. First of all, what is drying agent and what is dehydrating agent? Drying agent, they just dry it superficially, means just surface, we can say the moist HCl turns to dry HCl. The compound remains same, hydrogen chloride. But when we use dehydrating agent, they completely change the chemical substance. like for example glucose or sugar molecule. If you add sulfuric acid, it will take out the oxygen and hydrogen atom from the substance in the form of water molecule. Like glucose or sugar, if you add sulfuric acid on it, it will turn to black, that is carbon, and the water molecule will be taken by sulfuric acid. So dehydrating agent take out the water molecules from the chemical, and drying agent, they just superficially remove the moisture or the moist we can say water. If you just keep the sulfuric acid beaker on a table for a few weeks, you will see there is an increase in the level of sulfuric acid, because it will absorb the moisture from the surrounding, and there will be an increase in the level. And okay, the acid plus water or base plus water is actually exothermic reaction, so heat will be released. So next topic, that is dilution, we'll discuss that what should be advisable, whether acid plus water, or you must add water to an acid or acid to an water, which we'll discuss in the next session. Okay, now here HCl gas and HCl in aqueous solution. HCl gas is known as hydrogen chloride gas. If it is in aqueous solution, it is known as hydrochloric acid. And we already have learned that hydrogen chloride gas, if HCl gas is dry condition and the litmus paper is dry, then there will be no change in color. But in case of HCl, that is hydrochloric acid, in aqueous solution, it will definitely change the blue litmus to red. So this was about that acidic nature of acid is in water or in aqueous solution. The H plus ion, the hydronium ion, released only in the aqueous solution, and in dry condition there is no acidic effect as such. Okay, that's it. So dear students, let's talk about dilution. When we are talking about adding water to acid or water to base or vice versa, there is always evolution of heat, because it's an exothermic reaction. So first understand what is exothermic reaction. Like when the reactant energy is more than the product energy, there will always be a evolution of heat. Just for example, the reactant is having 100 calories of energy and the product form is having 80 calories of heat energy. So the excess 20 calories of heat convert into heat energy, which we say like evolution of heat energy or exothermic reaction. And when you talk about endothermic reaction, let's take an example. If the reactant is having 80 calories of heat of energy and the product is having 100 calories of energy, so obviously this reaction will proceed by 20 calories of heat, addition of 20 calories of heat in the reactant, then only the reaction will occur and will form the product. So when we talk about dilution of acid or dilution of base, it's an exothermic reaction. Now let's understand what is advisable. We must add acid to water or water to acid. First let's see, acid plus water, it will give you hydronium ion and anion. If you're taking HCl, you will get chloride ion. If you take hydrobromic acid, you will get bromide ion. If you take hydroiodic acid, you will get iodide ion, and so on. And heat is evolved. So let's take example, hydrogen chloride gas plus water, you will get hydronium ion, chloride ion and heat, as it's an exothermic reaction. In the same way, base plus water, you will get cation plus hydroxyl ion and heat. So let's take an example, NaOH. Generally alkali are soluble in water and insoluble bases are not soluble in water. So we'll take an alkali, that is sodium hydroxide plus water, we will get sodium ion plus hydroxyl ion. So this sodium hydroxide just get ionized in water and the heat is released, and it's an exothermic reaction. So we must understand that the reactant's energy is more than the product. That's why heat is evolved. Okay, now what is advisable? If we add water in acid, what happens? As it is an exothermic reaction, so the surface of acid does not absorb heat, but acid can splash on you. So it is not advisable, it is not recommended that you add water to an acid. But instead we must remember that we must add acid to water. Why? Because on adding acid to water, the heat which is evolved is absorbed by the surface of water. We know that water is having high specific heat capacity. What is heat capacity? It is heat absorb करने की क्षमता. That's called heat capacity. And the water is having high specific heat capacity. That's why we use to just cool down. Like for example, the seat of your bikes, we add water during the summer to cool it down because water is having high specific heat capacity. पानी में पोटेंशियल है गर्मी खींचने की, बिकॉज वो गर्मी फिर क्या करेगी, पानी के मॉलिक्यूल्स के बीच में जो हाइड्रोजन बॉन्ड है उसको तोड़ेगी. And that's why this heat energy goes in breaking the hydrogen bond and the water molecules move freely, and that's why water can easily absorb the heat. Now when you add acid to water, the heat which is evolved is absorbed by the surface. So now there is no chances, or we can say, of splashing. Then too, if you are diluting the acid in laboratory in school, we must remember that we have to add drop by drop and slowly and stir it. So to avoid such things. Okay, too easy to remember, just remember alphabetically acid to water. A alphabetically order हमको याद है ना, A से W. So alphabetical order याद रखना, acid is added to water. Now let's talk about dilution. What happens? For example, this was concentrate acid, and when we add water, what happens? So the acid remains same. What we are adding? The water. So for example, you can see H plus, 4H plus here, just for example, and here same 4H plus, but the volume is increased. Now acid does not increase or decrease, but the volume is increased. So this concentrate acid contain more number of acid molecules per unit volume. कम जगह में ज्यादा H plus है और यहाँ पे ज्यादा वॉल्यूम के अंदर कम H plus है comparatively. So we can say this diluted acid is having less number of acid molecules per unit volume, and this having more number of acid molecules per unit volume. So this was about dilution. And just remember, we must remember that we have to add acid to water. That's it.